Good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday November 7th, 2017 City of Oldsmar City Council meeting to order. If you'll please rise for our pledge and our invocation. It will be led by our City Attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Our Father in heaven, give us the power to clearly discern right from wrong. Allow our words and actions to be governed thereby and by the laws of this land. We ask for your inspiration to strive in our endeavors to serve the public. We also ask that you direct us so that above all things we will discharge our duties for the benefit of the people we serve. This we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and once again, welcome. We're already into November. Our first item tonight is our citizens open forum. We only have a couple of rules: that you state your name and address clearly for the record. You keep it to no more than 5 minutes, and you can speak towards items on the agenda. If you are speaking about items 15, 16, 17, or 18, those are, or I'm sorry, 15, 16, and 18, those are public hearings, and we will hear you at the time that we get to those items. Having said that, anybody on this side of the room like to address the council? Judy? Take your time.
Judy Black, 2010 Hudson Court. Everybody knows, I hope they know, that Veterans Day is Saturday. And I just wanted to speak on one thing. Gator, both of our fathers and both of his brothers, veterans, but somebody made a quote that I thought was so fitting, and that's, if you want to know the price of freedom, go to a veterans hospital.
Yep, very true.
And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, thank you, and we hope to see you out there. November 11th at 11. Thank you. Anybody else on this side of the room? Yep, Gator? You two related?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's by marriage. I'm not sure.
All right, whatever.
Steve Gator Black, 2010 Hudson Court here in Oldsmar. I have two purposes tonight. One is to remind you that this Thursday night, there's going to be an author's night at the library in Tico Hall. We will have pizza and soft drinks and water. And I say that because I know that there's some on the council that love pizza. I don't know who it is, but... and the other thing I have, we have been talking in the Friends of the Library about getting an organization together to promote poetry. It's not going to be a club. There will be no officers. It's just going to have a moderator, and anybody that's interested in learning about poetry, writing poetry, reading poetry, we're going to invite everybody to come. We will have more information on this later on, but in order to help kick it off, I have a challenge for you. I've given you a list of 15 words you need to write a poem about. Now, it doesn't have to rhyme, although Dennis the Menace told Joey, his buddy, that a poem is a series of words that rhyme. It's not necessarily the case. And you don't have to use all 15 of the words. But we'd like for you to try, and we'll look at them the first council meeting in December. That gives you enough time to get your kids to write it up for you.
I love that Gator gets here and he gives us all homework. No hesitation.
I don't mind that a bit, not a bit.
That's good.
I already got mine done, so don't worry about it.
Thank you.
Would you put them in reverse?
It was Origin Oldsmar, represented Oldsmar, Red Oldsmar, Divine Oldsmar, Stars Oldsmar, White Oldsmar.
Next year I'll be at the authors. My book is being published and printed right now. And when I was going to college, I won an award for a poem that I had written, and I spoke it at the class.
That's cool.
My belief is that everybody can write a poem. Everybody says, well, I can't write a poem, I don't know how to do that. It doesn't make any difference whether you've got any formal training about doing it or not. I have no formal training, and on occasion I can spit out poems just as fast as I can talk. And other times I couldn't do it for a nickel.
It's probably like writing music. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it ain't. You know?
That's exactly right. So just give it a shot. It doesn't have to be Nobel Prize worthy, but give it a shot. You're going to be surprised at how much you really do know about poetry. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Do they have to be in order? All right. I like to know the rules before we get down this, you know.
Make up your own rules.
Okay. Anybody else on this side of the room? Nope. Anybody on this side of the room? Anybody in the room? Nope. Seeing nobody, will close the Citizens Open Forum. We'll give you the quick mayor's minute, a couple of recaps items. Top of the Bay Oktoberfest, Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, great weather and turnout for the annual event at Tampa Bay Downs. Wiener dog races were a huge success. And I have it on pretty good authority that it's actually going to be 2 weekends next year. So they did real well with it. And last year was the record year, but they did real well this year. So international cleanup, 40 volunteers participated, collected 360 pounds of trash and recyclables from shoreline and paddle trail. Thanks to everyone that was involved. We mean business. Another successful and monthly visits by the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, the city manager, and myself for October. We visited Zippy Shell self-storage. It's similar to Pods, and it's right here in Oldsmar, about a 50,000-foot warehouse that they use to store into. Ally Restore and Construct, also Business Records Management, and they were also the ones that helped us with our big shred event, and lunch at Chef Lee, so that was very nice. Ace Hardware, congratulations to Ace Hardware on their soft opening this week. The new store is located at Forest Lakes Plaza next to Aldi's. We want to welcome them to Oldsmar. They used to be in Oldsmar at the what is now famous Tate and moved out, and so everybody's excited that they're back. Today we went to a veterans ceremony at Nielsen. That was very nice. Honored to join the Chamber of Commerce, the city manager Al Braithwaite, the vice mayor Dan Saraki, council members Eric Seidel and Jerry Beaverland. And I got to tell you, it was a really nice ceremony. They did kind of a fictional story of a typical family that's lost a loved one in war, and what their typical dinner is like, and then they slid a screen in front of them so you couldn't see them, and then you saw a representation of the military with some active members and what their dinner is like with MREs and stuff like that. So it was very nice, and it was actually beamed all around the world to all of Nielsen's facilities. So very excited that they invited us to that. Upcoming events, benefit yard sale, Friday, November 10th and Saturday, November 11th at 8 a.m. at Kathy Horvath's house, our deputy city clerk. I turn it over to you to tell them why we're doing this and the great cause.
Thank you. This is our big fundraiser of the year for my son-in-law who needs a kidney transplant. So all the proceeds go towards his fund.
And it's a kidney transplant for a very rare disease,
A
right?
very rare disease. He has dense disease. It affects 250 families worldwide.
Yeah, so that's great. The best part is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, last year at this time, he was not on the list.
Right.
Now he is on the list.
He is
So-
actively on the transplant list.
they're needing all the help we can get. So also annual Veterans Day ceremony, as Judy mentioned, that's this Saturday, November 11th at 11 a.m. at Veterans Memorial Park, reading the newly inscribed names on the Veterans Wall. Organic Community Garden Open House, that's also Saturday, November 11th, 10 to 2 at Bicentennial Park, free admission. The City Hall Blood Drive, Tuesday, November 14th, 1 to 4 at City Hall. Free fleece blankets for donors, plus wellness checkup. Celebrity Server Afternoon, Saturday, November 18th, 12 to 4 p.m. at Jack Willie's. Annual Goals for a Cause fundraiser, NHL two-time Stanley Cup winner. Jason Colomar. It was easier than I thought it was. University of Florida and Buccaneer player Ernest Graham will be there, and more $20 tickets, raffles, silent auctions, and more. what Goals for a Cause does, and I'm on the Holiday Sharing Fund board, and we were the beneficiary last year. Goals for a Cause is an organization that actually holds an event to raise money to give it away to another charity. I'm not sure what the charity is this year. Do we know?
One Voice Foundation.
One Voice Foundation. So it's a great cause. What did we get last year? I think 20,000, 20 grand. So it's a great fundraiser event. Also, lunch with Mayor Beavis, Tuesday, November 21st, 12 to 2. I just said that in third person, didn't I?
You did, I was waiting for you to realize that it's you.
Yeah, it is me. Okay, yeah.
That's at McDonald's.
Yeah, my favorite place. Tuesday,
Ronald
November
McDonald.
21st.
Have lunch with Ronald McDonald.
That might be a bigger draw than me. 12 to 2 at the Oldsmar McDonald's. Stop by and have a chat. I'll be out there from 12 to 2, eating my lunch very slowly, obviously. So. Details on upcoming events at myoldsmar.com. That wraps up the mayor's minute. We have nothing in our CRA. Our consent docket, we have quite a few items, and I have explained this the past couple of years. The reason we have so many items on the consent docket, we actually have 11 of them, is because we're starting a new budget year. When you start a new budget year, there's a lot of items that were appropriated in the budget, and so now we're starting to purchase those things. And then what will happen is throughout the year, they figure out what else they'll need next year, it gets put into the budget, and then the same thing happens next year. So
If I can, Mayor, also the fact that when we buy up someone else's contract, they've gone through
the procurement
the
process.
procurement process, the bid process. And so it can be very expensive for a city to continuously go through that process on every item, which is the reason why cities, for the most part, can piggyback on each other, where one city rather incurs the cost and the time. But I'll assure you that all of these, and they're all current contracts where they've been recently vetted and so forth, so.
And one of them, the one big one that I can think of off the top of the head is vehicle purchase, because they buy in a huge pool, and you would never, in a small city like us.
Well, that's not in the consent docket.
No, I know, I'm just saying.
Separate item that we need to discuss.
No, I understand that, but that's an item that definitely, I know. And can I do this? Can I jump out of order real quick if I could? Under City Manager, item 19, we got to do a little homework on that and tweak it just a little bit. If I can get a motion to postpone that until our next meeting, that would be great.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that will show up on our next agenda. Thank you.
I'm glad that, Eric, you brought that up. I was going to ask the city manager or somebody to explain that, because we aren't putting these out to bid, and it looks kind of funny that we don't put them out to bid. We're talking about a lot of money here.
Right.
And so I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
so you don't have to explain it now.
I was ready.
We're prepared.
Dang it.
Would you like a motion for the consent docket?
I got to read them first, if I could do that. Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine. Okay. Go ahead, Ronald.
Approve the minutes of the July 18th, 2017 City of Oldsmar City Council meeting. Approve the minutes of the August 1st, 2017 City Council meeting. Approve request to waive bid requirements and approve purchase of 3 items under renewed contracts, piggybacks, and cooperative purchases. Item 4, approve the request to waive bid requirements and award the contract for repair, replace, and supply of utility plant equipment to Mater Electric Motors under the same terms and conditions of the Lee County Board of County Commissioners, BOCC, contract number B-160144KC, PB 17-011, with the first of 3 possible one-year extensions to be exercised through June 6, 2018. Number 5, approve request to waive bid requirements for the annual purchase of library materials from Baker and Taylor and award purchase under the same terms, conditions, and pricing as the State of Florida contract, pound 5510150 ACS-17-1 PB 18-003B. Item 6, approve request to waive the bid requirements and award contract to Lane Inliner LLC and sanitary sewer rehabilitation service associated with the Harbor Palms infrastructure project under the same terms and conditions as the City of Plantation, Florida contract number 041-14 for gravity sewer main rehabilitation dated the 7th of 07/15/2015 respectively, and PB 16-004. Item 7, approve the request to waive bid requirements and authorize the purchase of the Motorola portable radios from Motorola Solutions Incorporated on the same pricing terms and conditions as the State of Florida contract number 725-500-12-1, PB 18-003C, with the Pinellas County 04-19768 configuration. Item 8, approve request to waive the bid requirements and award a contract for polymer supply for the water reclamation facility, WRF, to Keed Group Incorporated under the same terms and conditions as the city of Titusville, Florida. Bid number 16-B-041, PB 16-025, with the first of two possible one-year extensions exercised through November 2nd, 2018. Approve the request to waive bid requirements and authorize the purchase and installation of Celebration Sod and Sunbelt Sod and Grading Company Incorporated for the Oldsmar Sports Complex per the pricing terms and conditions of the City of Clearwater's contract 38-17R PB 18-008. Item 10, approve the request to waive the bid requirements and award the contract for general engineering and professional services to Greenman Peterson Incorporated for environmental monitoring services for water year 2018 under the same terms and conditions as the Southwest Florida Water Management District Agreement 14MA000028 dated 06/27/2014 as amended 08/28/15 and 4/19/17 PB pound 16-021. And the final item, approve the tentative agenda for the November 21st meeting, which will add the item 19 that we have motion to move forward. Now I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. If nobody wishes to pull anything.
Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 7, please.
All right, item 7. Okay. Mr. Beeblin?
I'd like to make kind of an explanation on number 3, but also last meeting I brought up the something off the agenda that about the minutes, and I expected Eric to say something about it because he did catch it before. He just didn't want to say anything after I brought it up. So I just wanted everybody to know that Eric had caught that. He just didn't want to follow me and say, well,
I didn't want to say, you just now noticed that. Well, thank you.
and then I'll pull 3 just for.
Okay, we pulled items 3 and 7. Can I have approval for 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11?
So moved.
Second? Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Item 7, Vice Mayor?
Mayor, I'd like Dean, would you please explain to us what that contract is for? It's kind of expensive, but the main thing is I want to make sure that the technology is current with what we have, like cell phones, the different way we can communicate. Would you just please explain to me on that?
Yes, sir. Dean O'Neill, Fire and EMS Chief. We replace our portable radios. These are the radios that we carry on our hips approximately about every 15 years. The last time we did a replacement on these was actually an upgrade 8 years ago. The current model radio that we're using right now is no longer supported by Motorola after 2018. 2 years ago, most of the county switched over because the radios were several years older, so we're really about 2 years behind that process. The radios we're currently using will still work until the new ones come in and we have a chance to do training on them. Motorola, Suncoast Communications in Pinellas County is the only vendor that we're allowed to purchase. They're the only people who have a sole source contract with Pinellas County. They're the only people we're allowed to purchase radios from. So these radios will replace the portables we have for our staff vehicles and also for our first out emergency vehicles.
And you did say they're compatible with other...
They are. They met the new P25 capability. They're compatible with the new upgrades and digital system that Pinellas County is using in their CAD.
That's it, Mayor. Thank
Thank
you.
you. You happy with that? Good?
I'm happy
Okay.
with that.
Item 3.
Item 3, nothing was told about what the items are. I just like to have a quick explanation so people understand what the 3 are. City manager can do that.
Item 3, yeah.
Okay, these are just existing relationships that we already have that we've asked to extend for another year. The other agenda items are new relationships where we're piggybacking something else. The first one specifically is for our annual sodium hydroxide chemical supply at the RO plant. The second one is actually a true piggyback, which is a fancy way of saying that we participated in that bid process. Larger entity, in this case, Sarasota County, they ask for what our estimate is on how much of the product we're going to use, which for this one is liquid and carbon dioxide, also a chemical, and we participate in it without being
legally required to use it. We choose to use it, so we ask permission. We like the price, and we ask for permission to do that as well. Third one is the renewal of our sludge hauling and disposal contract at the WRF. So the reason we combined those three was because they are relationships we already have that we were just asking to continue because the validity of the contracts continued.
Satisfactory?
Yeah, that's fine, I just think we just should.
Yes, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Explain what we're talking about.
Yep, absolutely. So items 3 and 7, can I have a motion for those?
So moved.
Second? Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is the City of Oldsmar. First item is consider the appointment of Estrella Star Lastry. Did I say that right? As an alternate member of the planning board, if you'd come up while we do this. I don't know that everybody's had a chance to meet you. I met you at,
Mr. Mayor, I think item number 12, John Andrew.
I have item 12. Oh, mine, I picked this up out front. So, okay, then we're doing item 13. Go ahead. And we'll come back to it.
Hi, Star.
Hi.
How are you?
The
Welcome.
planning board, welcome. Yeah, we do this so that we can have a chance to meet you. I met you at the Citizens Academy, and so there's a chance from you. Tell us a little about, you're from Oldsmar, you live in Oldsmar?
I was born in Miami, and I've lived between Tampa and Miami my whole life. I moved here about 1.5 years ago and kind of fell in love with the city. Definitely, I caught the bug of the old town feel.
Very cool.
I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce. My job is Arizona Air Conditioning. It's about 2 blocks away from here, so I live in Oldsmar, work in Oldsmar, hang out in Oldsmar all day in my garden.
You probably put no miles on your car.
By
then.
loving
Oh, and I fill
Oldsmar,
my tank up every 3 weeks. Yeah.
by loving Oldsmar qualifies you.
I enjoy your history lessons as well.
Yep, they're good.
Don't encourage those.
And the fact that you're from Miami, just bonus points over here, I'm just saying.
Oh,
Whatever, you Hurricane fan, you. Well, thank you. You have any questions of us?
I don't. I hope I can serve you guys well.
Thank you. It's a good board that you're on, so thank you for wanting to step forward, especially only being here not very long. It's nice to see the public get involved, so thank you so much. If nobody has any questions, are we going to make her sing or no?
Not tonight.
Not tonight? We got a lot of things, otherwise we'd make you sing tonight.
Thank you.
Well, welcome.
Motion?
So moved.
Second? Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. We'll treat you to dinner one night, along with 150 of your closest friends, right? At McDonald's on whatever that day is, 21st. I don't know what I'm missing. I'm missing, consider the appointment of John Andrew Cabanas as a full member of the planning board. Okay, John? That's on this one, but it wasn't on the one I grabbed out front.
Mayor, if I may, that was my fault, because the ones that got printed to be out there were not the same as the final one that was published on the.
Oh, okay, no problem.
It's just 12 and 13 were switched,
Yep.
that's it.
Doesn't it make you feel good to admit that you were wrong?
Ladies
I love it.
first, ladies first, right?
Ladies first, ladies first. That's why I did it. Ladies first.
Story of my life, I'm wrong.
Good catch, John. Thank you. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to meet you, but we appreciate you also being a part of the member, and now you're a full member of the planning board. Do you have any questions of us?
No, I mean, I appreciate
Oh, man, I
the
thought we were going to
opportunity.
get one there for a second.
Well, I always have questions, but I appreciate the opportunity to serve. I actually serve on the committee for leisure services as well, so.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for all that. And
We appreciate your service.
anybody? Yeah, and I say this at our volunteer dinner that, this city would not be able to function to the level that it does if it were not for all the different boards and the people that really commit to this board. And, for the most part, nobody has a vendetta against the city, and they're not on it to do something to derail our plans. So we really appreciate your interest in the city, and we thank you for that.
Thank you. It's-
The planning board is very important. If you look around Pinellas County and see all the mix-ups and the screw-ups in some of these cities, then you understand how important the planning board is.
Absolutely.
A real quick story, and I've told this, and I'll make it brief, is I met with the city of Clearwater and the city of Clearwater Chamber of Commerce, and they came and met, talked about, the beautiful things that we've got going on here. And I said, well, yeah, we planned the Tampa Road corridor, and we planned this, and we planned that. And Bill Johnson, the city council member, just looked at me and he goes, so you guys plan? And I said, yeah, and I guess I thought that was an anomaly, but obviously it's not. So thank you for being part of the planning board. So
You have to understand, and you have to know Bill Johnson to understand why he would ask that question.
Yeah, I understand. I know Bill. I've been on
I
many
know
boards
Bill
with him.
well also.
Yeah, he must have stacks and stacks and stacks of yellow notepads.
For Bill's
notes.
retirement.
He takes notes about everything.
He's a
so-
great guy.
He takes notes about his notes, I think, so. At any rate, if there's no questions, I need a motion. Second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Thank
Five,
you,
nothing.
John.
Board.
Thank you. Welcome aboard.
You're going to double your pay now.
Planning board meeting.
He gets 2 dinners.
The next item is the proclamation for City of Oldsmar Arbor Day, and I'll go ahead and read that. Arbor Day, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, I, Doug Beavis, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, do hereby proclaim November 12th, 2017 as Arbor Day in the City of Oldsmar, and I urge all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our city's urban forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden hearts and to promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this 7th day of November 2017, Doug Beavis, Mayor, and I will present that to Felicia and Gator. Here, I'll give this to whichever one of you. You can fight over it. That's right. So I'll let you say something, but can you tell I was down at Veterans Park today, and I was down there last week watching the engraving, and I can't remember what the organization is, but there's a band around a tree with a plaque on it that talks about the tree and the history and the cost that it saves, and reducing pollution and things like that. I don't know if you know a lot about it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, so we partner with the University of Florida to provide the tree walk. And so it identifies the economic benefits of trees. You know, when you read the proclamation, all of that stuff doesn't address that the tree canopy is an extremely important economic asset of the city of Oldsmar. And that since we value parkland and trees, that is one of our fundamental values in this community.
Yeah, and I think if I read it right, it said that tree over its lifetime would, you know, it's an economic value of $250,000 or something like that. It's kind of neat to see there's a website where you can find all the trees at, so.
Mayor, you
anyway.
need your microphone.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you.
I have nothing to say.
Trees?
Well, I can say trees, yeah. I'm married to a tree hugger, so.
You have a poem about trees?
Yes, there is a poem about trees, but I don't know it.
Maybe instead
Thank
of
you.
cheese.
I guess where's Deb at? Picture?
Trees.
Get over here. Oh, that's right, we got to get in front of the thing. We know the drill.
Make sure you say trees.
Trees. Trees.
Mayor, I don't know what you would call this, but this proclamation for trees and Arbor Day is special, or you wouldn't have read the proclamation, they wouldn't have accepted it. 4 more items down, we're gonna destroy about 150 trees. You want to hear that, but I'm gonna bring it up anyway.
Okay.
Save that till we
Save it
get
for the
there.
public hearing.
Yeah, save that till we get to that. That's all under the city. Next is the city attorney.
We have 4 items for you tonight. The first item is item 15. This is the second final reading and public hearing of ordinance 2017-12. I'll read that ordinance by title only. An ordinance declaring the intention of the city of Oldsmar, Florida, to annex certain real property located in section 22, township 28 south, range 16 east, further described as lot 7, block 18, map of section number 1, West Oldsmar. Parcel number 22, 28, 16, 9, 6660, 018-0070 into the corporate limits of the city of Oldsmar and providing for the effective date of this ordinance. That's the second and final reading of ordinance 2017-12 by title only, and it requires a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Does anybody wish to address this item from the public? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this item?
One at a time.
There you go.
One at a time. Where are you at? Hearing no discussion, call the roll, please.
Member Sedell?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey?
Yes.
Councilmember Beaverland?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2017-12, annexing West Oldsmar, Section 1, Block 18, Lot 7, 3153 Huron Avenue is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 16 is the first reading and public hearing of ordinance 2017-17. This is the ordinance dealing with medical marijuana. You remember that at the workshop, you gave me direction to prepare an ordinance banning medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities in the city. This is that ordinance. I'll read it by title only. Ordinance 2017-17, an ordinance of the city of Oldsmar, Florida, exercising the option provided by section 381.986, paren 11, paren B, 1, Florida statutes, to ban medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities from being located within the boundaries of the city of Oldsmar, adding section 5.1.15 to Article 5 of the Land Development Code of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Oldsmar, banning medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities from being located within the boundaries of the city of Oldsmar, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2017-17 by title only.
This is a public hearing as well. Does anybody from the public wish to address this item? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on this item?
Nope.
I don't really have any other than only than the comedic value that Councilmember Beaverland added to our workshop when we were discussing this.
Can we get that on the record, please?
Let me tell you, being he brought it up, we had our own police department years and years and years ago, and I took the classes so I could ride with our cops here in town. And they would come over to, this was back in 1971, and they'd come over to the house all the time. And in our by our front door, there's this huge plant sitting there, and I never paid any attention to it.
Oh, no.
I know where this is going.
So we've had a dispensary before.
We have had no, we've had a grow house.
1971.
Grow house.
So one day my beautiful wife says, "You know what that is, don't you?" I mean, this damn thing was this tall. I said, "No." She said, "Go ask your middle son." The cops came there all the time. It was a huge marijuana plant. I didn't know what it was. So
He's out there watering it.
So glad you
He's
told that
watering it and
story.
fertilizing it.
So my middle son and I had a long talk. Didn't do much good, but we had a long talk. I had no idea what that thing was, but it was huge.
I think you were referring to his comment when you said what it
What it
cures.
cures? Yeah, that was my comment to what it cures. Yeah, so
Thank you, Mayor.
motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, no, call the roll.
Councilmember Sedell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey?
Yes.
Councilmember Beaverland?
Absolutely.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
First reading of ordinance 2017-17, adding section 5.1.15 to Article 5 of Land Development Code of the Code of Ordinances, banning medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities from being located within the boundaries of the city of Oldsmar, is passed with 5 votes for and 0 against.
And I did just hear, I think it was Sarasota County today, that one of the final of 5 cities banned it as well. So Sarasota, with the exception of unincorporated county, has banned it completely, so interesting. That came tonight, so.
Item number 17 on your agenda is a request for authorization to accept an offer of settlement on a water lien and emergency abatement liens on the property located at 649 Timber Bay Circle East. This is a property where the city spent some significant time cleaning up and demoing it back in the years 2010 through 2012, and there were a number of emergency abatement liens placed on the property to protect the city's interest. Subsequent to, or prior to those liens being recorded, the property went into foreclosure. The bank issued what's called a notice of lis pendens. And basically, when that is done, any lien that hits after the lis pendens is recorded is deemed ineffective as to that particular property. In this particular case, I was defending the mortgage foreclosure case. I perfected the water lien because of a couple of state statutes that gives us a priority for that. But as for the emergency abatement liens, they were wiped out in the foreclosure. After the foreclosure was completed, I was contacted by the owner of the property asking for the city to release the liens, and I told them that we were not going to do that, that they needed to pay for the release of those liens, and I negotiated $3,500 for those liens to be released from that property. That's the reason why it's referred to as a partial release. It's only releasing the property from that lien, which would frankly had already been wiped out in the foreclosure. So this is found money for the city. We will collect that $3,500 if you authorize it. We'll also collect all of the water lien 22308. In addition to that, we'll continue to attempt to collect the remainder balance from the prior owners, who were the Parkers, Darlene Parker, and her husband, I think it is Ted Parker.
What is the odds of that?
It's not very good, but at least this is something, you know. The lien will remain against the Parkers for 20 years from the date that it was recorded. So if they went out and they bought any other non-homesteaded real property, or if we found that they owned personal property that had some significant value to it, we would go after that as well. For example, if they had a $100,000 RV that had no underlying lien on it, that would be something that we'd be going after. The lien attaches to that.
Tom, you've been very successful at this. This is money that's actually found by your efforts. Thank you.
Sure. So I just need your authority to accept that.
Okay, and motion for purpose of discussion?
So moved.
Second, motion and a second. I have a question, and I don't know if this is something that's of interest to the rest of the council. I know we kind of go through this process periodically with the planning department when someone says about, you know, the time it takes to get a permit and process, and Marie and her staff, you know, diligently put together a timeline that says, you know, when the permit came in, blah, 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 and kind of creates the timeline. I don't know if it's probably not explainable tonight, but I know sometimes, and I was talking to Al about it earlier, I know it's of interest to me to understand the process, because sometimes, and I'm going to make it up and I could be wrong, but you know, you'll see the total lien of $76,000 by the time we go after it. It would be interesting for me, and if it's the council, maybe we can make it as an agenda item for a quick explanation. If not, I'll sit with Tom and get it. But to kind of go through a typical process of, you know, maybe why it gets up to $70-something thousand, because I'm sure it has something to do with you got to wait till the bank finally takes the property back, so there's something to go after, or maybe it's not a tickable. I just like to understand, because sometimes they get fairly high, and in my mind, I'm like, why are we waiting so long? But
sometimes we can't collect them.
Well, it'd be curious to understand the process for me.
Well, the very simple answer is that liens keep growing because of the fact the property owner does not bring the property into compliance.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's just interest. So the big dollar items, you know, up to $250 a day for code violations, if they, for example, they're ordered to cut their grass and they sit on it for 10 years, well, $250 a day adds up. And they could have rendered or, you know, brought it into compliance simply by running a lawnmower over it.
I guess the question is, and maybe this one's a little bit different because it was a foreclosure, but because I've seen some of these that get pretty high, what actually then trips it to actually start the legal process to collect the money, I guess?
These are a little bit different. These aren't code enforcement liens. These
Right.
are emergency abatement liens. So for example, we send our city crews out there to cut the grass, to clean it up, to board it up. In some cases, we demolish homes and we put a lien against the property. That's what these liens are for. It wasn't code enforcement issues.
But in this particular case, what trips the fact that we then change from going to a lien to taking legal action and collecting them? Is there a particular?
Well, it has to be sold, right?
No, we would write a demand letter. Normally, I wait 90 days after the original lien is recorded, and then I write a demand letter to the property owner demanding that it be paid. Some of these liens, though the older ones, you know, even though there is a list of them, I have not pursued them.
Okay.
I've waited until such time as they come up, like in these foreclosure actions, but we can pursue them.
Okay, in this particular case, I guess the bank is wanting to release it for sale to the property.
Correct.
So, I mean, I'm going through one of those right now with one of my clients, so. Is there a particular reason it's not worth the effort to not go after them without them coming to us first, I guess?
There are some of them that are under $3,500, and this city council has adopted a resolution a number of years ago that says that we will not pursue legal action on something that is less than $3,500. On the other ones, you know, I don't have a specific answer for you, but I'd be happy to, you know, give you the list. Ann has a list. She provided it to me, I think, last year. That has every case that has not been paid. And we have done some research on some of them. And the ones that we've done the research on, we found that even though there are some properties available, that it's not, there's no equity in them in which we could
Force the sale?
force the sale.
I got a question, Tom. This may be in the charter, I don't know. But when the liens get so high, I always thought they had to come, of course, I was wrong, that they had to come to council for forgiveness. Is there a way that the code enforcement board can actually forgive liens, forgive those liens?
There is a provision under chapter, yes, partially, under chapter 162, the Florida statutes, it gives them the authority to reduce the fine. But that's usually within about a 30-day window of the fine being liquidated. In other words, it came to the code enforcement board, and, you know, they brought it into compliance after the order. They have about a 30-day window that the code enforcement board still has jurisdiction of the case. But there is an attorney general opinion that says once that lien is recorded, the code enforcement board loses its jurisdiction, and it has to come to the city council for reduction or you know, reconsideration.
Well, then, I'll talk to you later about this. But they forgave a large lien that was 2 or 3 years old.
Okay, I don't know which one that would be, but it could be that they brought it into compliance, and when they brought it into compliance, the code enforcement board has a rule of procedure that within 30 days of the compliance, they have the right to petition for reduction of fine, and the code enforcement board can reduce it. So that's one other aspect. They have a portion of their rules that allows for that.
Well, I want to talk to you about this one.
Okay.
I'd be curious just to see the list
I would
of what's
too.
outstanding.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking with a resident this weekend who mentioned just off the cuff that she had like a $10,000 lien from years ago that the city had against her that was under her husband's name for like a carport he had built at one point and tore down. And you know, she's been here a long time. She's already having hardships with other items, utility bills, et cetera. And I'm just thinking, are we ever really going to collect this money? And I wonder what it's really for, and is it necessary? So it's just some circumstances like that. I'd just be curious to look through the list and see, because to make sure we're not putting additional hardship on someone, like say it was a lawn mowing thing and maybe they didn't live there or couldn't get there. Or, you know, I'm just be curious I'm sure most of them are just, I'm just be interested to see the
We
list.
can provide you with the list, but I would never go there, because then you're just undermining the code enforcement board, you know, saying that we don't really care what the code enforcement board has, we're more concerned about,
Well, you set
you know, the
precedents, too.
resident. You wouldn't want to do that, but the one other thing I wanted to mention to you just briefly is that there are some liens out there on properties that are homesteaded, and under the Florida Constitution, and under Chapter 162 of the statutes, there's a specific prohibition that we can't foreclose those liens that are on homestead property. So there are some of those out there that we literally just can't do anything with.
But you can leave the lien on it.
The lien will stay on, the lien will be on all of their non-homesteaded real property.
Okay.
To give you a quick example, back in 08, 09, East Lake Oaks, we put a lot of liens on some foreclosed homes because the city of Oldsmar was actually cutting some of the lawns, and we had up to $3,000 in some of these homes. Now that they've sold, our HOA recouped all that money.
Yeah,
Took time, we did lose some money, but we did get a lot of it back.
Yeah, we have similar situations like that.
I think sometime in the future, we ought to have a workshop on this.
I think it would be helpful just to understand, educate us on
I think it's a good point,
the
Mayor.
process.
And then redo what we have to redo, so it's not so confusing.
If everybody else is fine with that,
Sure.
I'm always up for understanding the process of what we do, so.
Okay, I'd be happy to handle that.
Okay.
I'll get with Al and Ann Marie, get a date.
Maybe, yeah, sometime next
Because
year.
we haven't discussed this for years.
Yeah, I think it'd
I
be
mean,
very helpful.
years.
Okay, was the motion?
I had a motion and a second for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, sorry. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 18. This is the public hearing with regard to the adoption of the Oldsmar Towns LLC Development Agreement for a 50 single-family attached townhome subdivision on the properties located south of St. Petersburg Drive, east of the Oldsmar Library, and north of Arlington Avenue. This is the second time that this has been before you. And Marie, I'm not sure, do you have anything that you want to add to the presentation about the development agreement itself?
Available to answer questions.
Okay. So, Mayor, there have been a couple of changes in the development agreement itself, and those changes are having to do with the amenities area. And I'm hoping that everyone has had an opportunity to look at those.
Yep.
We tried to address the concerns that were brought at the last council meeting. You will see in Exhibit G, there was also a designation of where the vinyl barrier will be, the wall around the amenity area. You'll also note that the acreage is set, and the dollar amounts for the stormwater management buy-in, that's shown in Exhibit E, it's $121,000. The parkland dedication fee pursuant to our land development code is $101,687.10. And this does require a public hearing for consideration of the development agreement. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions if you have them.
The client is here. Would you like to address council at this point? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Does anybody wish to address the public on this item? Yep, Dave?
Dave Tilkey, 505 Arlington Avenue East. I just want to go on record that I am opposed to the project, as I stated in my email from the last meeting and at the previous hearings, simply because of it's an increase in density, and I'm just categorically opposed to increasing densities by changing our land uses. I was not able to attend the last meeting, but I did watch the meeting, and I do have to make a correction. The mayor, city manager, and most of the city council referenced me being on the planning board, that I missed the meeting, so that's why I didn't vote. I had to leave the planning board in the year 2000 when I got elected to city council, and I have not been on the board since then.
I apologize.
That wasn't me, was it?
Probably. But
we'll just say yeah, because he doesn't remember. Yeah.
Just a couple simple things. I'm glad that there was great debate on the project. There were concessions made. I was glad to see all of that. The bollard idea, I think, is fantastic. If it's at both ends of School Street, that down at Arlington there's bollards, and then up at the edge of the development there's bollards, that it is simply a walk through, bicycle through, whatever. Fire trucks, everybody else, if needed, can get in. And there will be special occasions, because we were talking about neighborhoods that only have one way in or out. Now, you know, Mayor, you were referencing yours, which I think is a very different situation, where you're trying to get out onto Tampa Road, where here they're only going to be getting out onto St. Pete Drive. However, events such as the Oldsmar Days Parade, when that entire area is used as staging, that neighborhood would be locked in and blocked in for many, many hours. So that would be a day that probably the bollards would need to come down.
That was more my
and
reference.
They could go down there. One question I have about the landscaping, you know, the original plan showed I believe a 15-foot landscape buffer down around the amenity area. And now the fence has been added, and I believe it simply says fence with landscaping. I'm just curious, are we
Cobblestone vinyl barrier.
with landscaping? Does the 15-foot still remain? And on what side of the fence is the landscaping going to be? I bring this up only because when some of the hotels were going in town, and a tall concrete wall, I believe an 8-foot wall, was put up to separate the commercial use from the residential areas. And I believe at the time, either the planning board or council said, well, we want a lot of landscaping to soften that wall on the residential side.
There's no landscaping there.
And there's a couple of little remnants maybe, but a lot of landscaping, I believe, was put on the property owner's side and not on the resident side, and it didn't quite serve the purpose. The request for landscaping didn't serve its purpose the way it finally got in. So, you know, if maybe the landscaping can be split on two sides of the fence, something like that to soften it from both sides. You know, 4 stories is allowed by the way I read the development agreement, although they're proposing a 3-story development. Every place it mentions 3 stories, in parentheses, it seems to say 4 stories allowed, because that's what the code allows, that's what the land use allows there. I understand going to 4 stories throws a whole lot of other requirements on the developer, but as we've seen in other projects that maybe didn't quite go through right, and then somebody came back and said, well, here's what I'm really going to do. Instead of a conceptual plan, you know, here's what we're going to give you. Is there anything preventing them from coming back with a 4-story project?
Wouldn't we have to approve?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be a
If there was
substantial change,
yeah.
and they would have to come back.
Okay.
Some time ago, because I always said, you know,
Don't-
don't show me a Cadillac and then build me a Volkswagen.
Exactly.
There goes the Volkswagen thing again.
Sorry, Dan. And the final thing, only because I wasn't at the last meeting, and I do want to make a comment on the price that was paid for the property. You know, at the meeting, you were talking about a property right over here that you were willing to pay much more than an appraised value to try to get the piece of property. And down here, you're willing to get rid of a piece of property for a whole lot less than even the minimum appraised value. And I just don't think it's right that we, even though we did turn a profit on the property, that we're selling it for so much less than its market value,
We're going to talk about that.
and that we're selling it for without it ever really being on the market. Yes, people weren't running in the door saying, I want to buy that, I want to buy that, but has there ever been a great big old for sale sign down there saying, who's interested? And we surely shouldn't have sold it for $300,000 less than maybe we could have got. Who knows? That's all.
And I assume, and I can't remember who made the comment or what the comment was, that somebody had talked to John Buse and whoever made it and his team, and his team did, was it you? Somebody said it, that his
I
team.
did that. I'll wait till.
Okay, that his team had looked at it. Okay, that's fine. That kind of helps
But
address
looking
it.
at it and have some actual programs they want to present is 2 different things.
Well, they own the piece across from it, and they're still planning to develop that piece across from it, so I think
Okay,
that's their
we're still in
priority.
the public hearings. Anybody else like to address the council? Yes, Star?
Waste of time.
Name and address, correct? My name is Star Lastray of 106 St. Petersburg Drive East. While I understand a lot of the residents on Arlington Avenue want the one exit because I understand how they're going to be affected, I have 3-story homes that are being built right across the street from my home. All of these 50 homes exiting onto just St. Petersburg Drive East, or St. Petersburg Drive is going to create a lot of traffic in the morning. So while I understand the reason for only having one entrance and exit out of that community, I, on the other hand, would like them to have the 2 views because of all the extra traffic that they're going to cause of homes. I mean, that's everyone going to school uses that road. The homes that are being built across from my house on, you know, in by the library, there's already a lot of traffic going on there. Now you're forcing all of these homes that could possibly be built to exit only one way. So I actually want to speak to consider the option of having 2 exits. If this is already going to be built, you're forcing all these families to only be on one road that, as you mentioned, there's going to be events that they're not going to be able to get out of.
Right.
So.
They're not going to use Skull Street, believe me.
Thanks, yeah.
They won't use Skull Street.
There was dialogue to that effect, you know, on both sides, and I think that was the compromise that was reached, is that, you know, retractable or whatever you call them, removable bollards is a
Well,
good
I think
alternative.
also if you keep in mind that John Buse is going to develop that property across as a multi-family or mixed-use development,
At
there
some
will be
point.
more homes and more traffic, so it's good to plan ahead to have a second
Sure.
entrance for future use as well, so.
Good, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Scott.
your input. Anybody else from the public like to address the council? Seeing, oh, yep. Our 2 planning board people.
You're going to have a conflict of interest now.
John Andrew Cambanis, 524 Cypress Bend. I just wanted to ask if there was any more thought or planning around the amenities?
as far as what, they're called outs in the development agreement. I don't have them right in front of me, we went over them today. That kind of specifies no pool.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yeah, it specifically
Item
says no
number
pool.
20 or 22 in the development agreement.
The many shall include, where is it at? Features.
There's not a whole lot.
Includes park benches, hard landscaping, barbecue grills, and water features or other similar type features typically found in a park development shall not include a swimming pool.
Which means absolutely nothing to you and me. We can sit here all night and talk about it, we don't know what they're gonna do, okay?
Right, and what,
Question.
one of my concerns is that, you know, a lot of times amenities are used to boost sales, but there's no real plan. And if you don't have a plan, then
There's
you
no
can't.
plan that has been shown to us, okay?
Right.
So we're not planning too well, are we?
Okay.
Thank you. Does that address? Yeah. Anybody else from the public? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. I need a motion for the discussion.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Discussion. Start down with,
I got some.
okay, I'll start at that end.
Well, first of all, there's a lot been talking about, does anybody, I don't want to get into this right now, but a little later, do we know what the wall's going to look like?
There's a picture of it.
Picture of it.
It's going to look like the walls at Tuscany Woods and the walls at Wellington, similar to
Is
that.
it going all the way around the project?
No,
It goes right on the,
Yeah.
it
It
does
shows-
show specifically where it's,
Like what it'll look like.
It
It shows right here. in
it
blue.
actually goes further than I would
Go all the way
have expected it originally.
Okay.
So
Exactly.
it's actually more than I thought it would be. But do we want Marie to address Dave's question about the landscaping on both sides, or how big the buffer?
Well, wait a minute, before we.
We'll go through and get some discussion and then see if there's other things. that you
I want to tell, now, everybody, Gabby did, you did, Dan did, Eric did, and I did. 4 months ago, we voted for the CBRE. We voted for that. I thought it was a pretty good idea. And then 4 months later, Gabby and Dan and you voted against the CBRC. Why did you vote for it and then turn around and vote against it? It doesn't make any sense to me. We're going to hire CBRE to tell us what the land value is and then to help us develop that. And so they come back, and thanks to Eric, that wouldn't even have happened unless Eric had brought it, whichever is correct English, had brought it up to us. Well, why aren't we going and asking CBRE? We hired them, what the land value is. So they come back, thanks to Eric, they came back and says it's probably worth 1.1 to 1.2 million. And we're selling it over $800,000. So yeah, there's a possibility we are losing $250,000 in the land sale. And I say, what's the big rush on this? Okay, my question is, if you're gonna hire somebody like CBRC and then turn around 4 months later and vote against it, that's, to me, that says something about the council and their judgments. If we're not going to use this people like the CBRE, then get rid of them. Why do we even hire them? Why do we even talk to them? Because we aren't serious. In my opinion, we are not serious about this. And thanks to Eric, he brought it up. So okay, let's go back to them and see what they say. You know, I'm going to do what I have to do. But when I was elected council 28 years ago, it appears to me that the inconsistency of this is startling to me. I'm going to be on the back end of a vote again, which is fine with me. But why'd you all vote for it to start with, if you aren't going to use it? And then little here, well, okay, I'm not going to change anybody's mind, but I tell you what, if I was in an election in years to come, I would love to be in a debate with y'all. I would love to be in a public debate with y'all on just this item right here. You voted for the CBRE, and 4 months later you voted against it. I would love to hear y'all's explanation. And that's as far as I'll go.
And I don't, I hear what you're saying. I would say that we hired the firm, and I'm not speaking for the council by any means. I think the original intent of hiring the commercial real estate firm of CBRE was to help us with the property next door.
No, we hired him, and I remember that.
That was the main purpose for hiring
The property next door was fine, but this city owns a lot of property, a ton of property.
Sure.
And when I voted for that, I voted for it for every major piece of, we have more major pieces of property than what's next door.
Oh, I understand that. I understand.
And I want somebody like that to come in and guide us through that.
I understand.
But it didn't happen that way. Okay, so we're going to lose $250,000. Okay.
I don't know that that's necessarily true.
It may not be true, but it may be true.
Well,
you hired those people to come in and tell you that.
I understand. I mean, I sell real estate professionally, and
I know you do.
Land is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it, period.
That's not always true either. That is true for a lot of things.
Yeah, in general.
I've been in antiques all my life, and I can tell you right now, I just sold a painting that blew my mind.
Yeah, but somebody's willing to pay it.
Well, no, they're not willing, they did. Okay, but
that's what I mean.
We've owned this piece of property for a long time. We haven't even advertised it. Nobody hardly, see, I don't understand how this happens so quick. It's irritating to me that all of a sudden it's brought up. It's the same way with School Street. I doubt that they asked for School Street. School Street was put on in this because the city manager wanted School Street open, and that's fine. They didn't ask for it. I bet you, well, I can't do that because I can't. I bet you they were told they had to open School Street. No, they can say, no, that didn't happen that way, and then I have to accept that. But see, this whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. What you all voted for, 4 months later, you voted against. That's something y'all are going to have to answer that. You're lucky this is happening real quick. You're not having anybody running against you. That's fine. But in the future, when you have other elections and somebody like me is going to bring it up,
I can
guarantee
answer
you.
it right now. I can answer it right now. I would say that a group like CBRE we hired to give us guidance. And at the end of the day, as a council, it's our decision to make the best decision for the city. And I will say that I will defend my decision. One, I agree with Doug that it's worth what someone's willing to pay for it. I'll give you an example. The property across the street has been owned by John Buse for a very long time, who has had a plan drawn out. I've actually seen those plans 5 years ago before I was even elected.
John Buse is going to.
But I'm giving you an example of a very good developer that makes very smart decisions, that partners with the city, who has owned that property for more than 5 years. I have seen the plans in writing 5 years ago before I was even on council. They have still not come to fruition. So granted, per se, John says, I think that's a great piece of property.
He's not trying to sell it.
No, but I'm saying, let's say John was like, I'm interested in that property, I'm gonna buy it today. But let's just say, he can't build on it for 8 years because he's also gonna build on the property across the street. Do I want to wait 8 years for another development to be built to actually create a downtown here in Oldsmar? I don't. I went door to door this weekend with residents on Country Club Drive, and one woman said, why is it so hard to get a downtown? Why is it so difficult? So I had conversations with her about density and that you have to have residences in downtown to support restaurants and boutiques, etc. So one, I can defend my decision. Two, CBRD didn't stand up and say, don't move forward. They just said, we asked for their opinion on a value and appraisal, and they gave us their opinion, and we took that with our decision. I also think you're neglecting to mention, one, not only the impact fees, but the cost that it would cost us to build School Street if we weren't asking the developer to build it themselves. So there's a lot of other incremental cost that essentially.
Why would we want to build School Street? That doesn't.
Reasons why I agreed that it should be there in the first place, for a second entrance, for a potential cross through once there's a downtown. So, and I will also say personally, I just sold, and now it's a residential, not commercial. But I had a party that was very interested in the home. Before I even put it on the market, they put in 6 offers cash for the property. I went through all of the work with them, inspections, etc. And at one point, he just decided to drop out. And that very interested buyer was no longer under contract with me, and then I had to work to get another offer. But all I'm saying is, you could have interested parties, you can push them to pay more because you think it's worth a certain amount, and you could also push them out of the deal as well. So I think that it's a good development. I think it's the right time in the market. There's a lot of great things happening in the city. We've got new grocery stores, new restaurants, new businesses, new things happening with the park. It's a great time to add a little bit more density and the right character and the right size for future residences to support those new businesses. So I stand by my decision. I think it's going to be a great development. I think we're adding good input. We're working with the residents that live nearby to compromise.
We're not working with them.
We are. We've made some compromises, some concessions.
You want to get up and tell her how she's working with you?
So, I mean, we've listened. We're putting in ballards. We're putting in a cobblestone fence. We're addressing questions about landscaping. You know, I think the style fits with our downtown, what we want to see
But
here.
we need to get out. Y'all are going to vote the way you want. I know how I feel.
Okay.
You can always want or wish for a little bit more. Even if you sell a price, if I sold my house at full price, I got that offer in 5 days before I put it on the market. You don't think it made me question, could I have listed it for more?
Absolutely.
Could I have gotten more?
Hands up.
Absolutely. Maybe from someone else I could have gotten more. Maybe not.
Bird in the hand.
We could also get a different development, a better development. We could develop that land.
get nothing.
We could develop that land in a different way. We could start at the other corner that we all talked about and build it this way. Anyway,
But look at our downtown. We've talked about building
Oh,
a
the
downtown for more than 5
downtown,
years, and there's
downtown.
nothing there.
nobody's going to walk to a restaurant from there to start with.
Then what if we put it there
No,
in
you
the
know,
right
no, they
plan?
won't. Where are they going to walk to?
Well, they used to walk to the tap house all the time.
Who?
The tap house.
Is the tap house still there?
Well, no, but
Kicked out.
no, that's not any fault of theirs. That was
Is
the
it still
land.
there?
No, the landlord kicked him out because he bought the property.
Then the tap house is not still there.
But not by their choice.
Well, I don't care by whose choice it is.
Well, I mean,
Anyway, I've had my say.
okay.
Say
Gabby, you got any
anymore.
more?
No, I'm good.
Vice Mayor?
I have to tell you, I agree with Gabby on what she's saying. The main thing is the access for the School Street, the expense, the city doesn't have to pay for School Street. I think that's a big thing. This weekend, I went to the wine festival at Safety Harbor and walked that place. There was over, I don't know, how many, 20,000 people. That place was packed. And that is a downtown area that I would like to see here in Oldsmar. And that's just step one. This development is just step one of heading in that direction.
You cannot, again, I wish we'd just get on with this. You cannot compare Oldsmar to Safety Harbor. Oldsmar has an industrial base that is incredible. They have nothing.
I know, but as far as a downtown area, we have to start somewhere, and I think this is a first
We
step
could do
in
the
that
same thing,
direction.
but
Okay, all right.
by
Let-
having something down here.
We're all entitled to our opinions, so.
Jerry, I don't want to argue with
I'm
you.
finished.
I agree with, I like your opinion. I'm listening to you. I understand, but I agree with Gabby, what she said.
Councilmember Sidell?
Well, a couple of things. First off, I thought at the last meeting, I didn't think we were talking about Dave not making, I thought we were talking about Dale not making the meeting. Did it say in there, Dave?
Dale Renvior?
Yeah, because I thought,
At 128 of the meeting and at 128 of the other.
Oh, come on, be more specific, if
Well,
you
you
could,
should have
please.
been, hey,
oh, well,
you should have
Yeah.
been here, then we wouldn't have said that.
anyhow.
Anyway, go on.
Listen, I've made my opinion well known as it related to the price, and that I thought that, and I hope moving forward that, because we're going to find ourselves in this position a lot in downtown, maybe if we parcel out, that we utilize all the tools available to us, and also, I think it starts to send a consistency message that if it's not in the range from what our consultant said, that we're probably not going to be as inclined to move forward. However, having said that, we've already sold the property. There was already a deal made, and this council approved it. And so for us to do anything different at this point, I think would be a mistake, a big, big mistake.
Well, I'm going to be consistent.
You're going to what?
I'm going to be consistent.
I'm sure you will. But I think it would be a mistake and not the best business partner, and it would send a message to other people to be scared to death to do a deal with the city. And so whatever, look, we've got a lot more to do, and I think we'll just continue to do better and better at it. And I do hope that we'll use all the tools available to us and so forth. As it relates to what we're actually voting on tonight, you know, I appreciate the fact that the plans have come back with the compromises that the council asked for. The fence went further than I think we would have expected. It looks like it's going to be also aesthetically pleasing, and so I appreciate that kind of effort to it. I've not been an opponent of the development because I too believe in order for us to ultimately have a successful downtown, Jerry.
I love that word, downtown. I really do.
But I think that we are going to need more density to ensure its success. The last thing we ever want to do is, with all this land that we have up here that's taken years and years to collect and purchase, is to build a ghost town. And so, and this to me looks like a very nice looking project. I think it, you know, we have an experience curve also with the developer who's done good work and really fine projects. You know, I do wish we would have got more money for the property, but it's, you know, certainly not the end of the world. It's important we get what we want. I like the fact that there's been compromises in it. I too don't believe that School Street should have ever been there, but it is. And that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, but at least there's been some compromise on it. I think it's I speak in favor of the approval. I think the compromises have worked. It's a good-looking project. We have the site plan in front of us. Clearly, we saw the site plan before, thanks to Councilman Beaverland. I think that was a good point. It should be a practice from now on when something like that comes up. And so in any event, I'm satisfied with it. I appreciate the compromise and how far the developer is going to accommodate the concerns of the neighborhood. And you know, and staff had said to us that streetscape was something that staff recommended. And so that was never something that came from the developer. And, you know, certainly that our committee feels that it's important to have that extra safety option in there. And so it's there, and there you have it. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
One other thing, Mayor, is one of the emails that we have here, the resident is asking for an 8-10-foot wall. We can't, privacy wall, we can't go that high. 6 foot is the
Residential to
code.
residential, correct.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
let's-
we can.
You did mention in the last meeting
We
that there
did
wasn't
it.
any.
We did it for Walmart.
That's a commercial to residential.
This is going to be commercial one of these days.
Not this development, it's residential.
Next to it will be probably.
Well, then you address the wall there with that.
It's going to be nice to have an 8-foot wall ended with a 6-foot wall. But anyway, you know, the thing is going to pass, and that's fine. It'll probably be a fine development. We'll get tax dollars from it, and so on and so on and so on. But the inconsistency of it doesn't make any sense to me, and it will never make any sense to me.
And I will say this, because I was the one who brought it up earlier in the process. You know, we slowed the boat down originally because it was a unique deal. I mean, frankly, it was a unique deal in the sense that we weren't out advertising the property and so forth, but someone came to us with a vision that fit into our vision. And so, you know, they're good for them, right? It sparked something happening that the property's been there for a long time. So I don't begrudge that at all.
No, I don't either. That's
Having
what,
said that, though, Jerry, let me finish. We did leave it out there longer, and yeah, it wasn't Buse himself, but, you know, I had heard that, and actually I spoke to someone who expressed an interest, and I said, well, you know, look, we don't have a deal done, but we are dealing, and, you know, we certainly welcome any competition. It's not, you know, being steered to one particular individual. And actually, you know, the conversation that I had, because I'm very sensitive about conversations, about something that's good, without me taking notes now, so that I can report it as to what the conversation was. Here's what I did. I said, if you really want to know what happened at the last meeting, I'm going to email you a link to Oldsmar Connects read the story, they got it right. It'll give you an update. It's public information. And that's what I did. And I never heard back. And so, you know, there was some interest from other folks. They didn't take action. They didn't initiate the whole project. They didn't have that vision to begin with. So, you know, I would say we have the right partners.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I brought this up to Bruce, and Bruce said, oh, no, we don't want to do that. I know what we own in this town. In fact, I take part of the credit for Bruce in 1988 brought up he wanted to buy 4 lots on Lafayette, and the council turned him down 5-0. And when I was elected in 1990, I said, put it back on the agenda. He said, I don't want to, because they always turned me down. And I said, I wasn't on the council at that time. I want it back on there. Of course, Bruce and I didn't get a hold. Along in the first 2 or 3 years I was on council. So we put it back on there, and it was 4-1 to buy the 4 lots. That saved us $250,000 later when we did the Burbank drainage. Okay. And so I brought this up to Bruce, and now I'm going to do it in public. We need to take every square foot of land that this city owns, and we need to put it so we see it, and we need to make some determination of what kind of criteria we're going to have to sell that land. We own a piece of land on Tampa Road that one of these days, we're going to have somebody come in here. And I think this council or the next council, this council can make determinations of what can and can't go on that piece of land and how we're going to handle it, and it won't happen like this again.
I just have a couple of comments, and to Eric's point, we've already approved the purchase, but I can tell you in answer to some of the things that that I've experienced selling real estate and also being on the development side is that they don't care if it's on the market, a lot of developers. They're out there actively looking for it. It doesn't have to be for sale. They're looking to assemble property. They're looking to find vacant property. I do it all the time at the office. You know, I see a vacant piece of property, I tag on it, find out who the owner is, and reach out to them. That's equally easy for somebody to do with any of the property that we've done. I've done it for a city of Oldsmar property. I didn't know we owned it. I was looking at it, and I contacted Bruce about it. It's a small parcel on State Street, but so there is opportunity. It doesn't have to be on the market for people to offer for it. And sometimes those are some of the best deals because the developer flies in under the radar and, you know, makes contact and does it. And you read in the article that Oldsmar Connect wrote, did we get a little bit less than they valued it at? Yes. Again, I say it's, you know, you'll get what somebody will pay for it. But I was really looking at, and Eric kind of touched on it a little bit, and Gabby, but I'm really looking at the overall value of that property. And I think to Eric's point that we have a developer that has come in with a similar vision of us for that area with some density and a project that will work and look nice. I look at the entire value of not just that property and the taxable portions of it, but, you know, we own all the way up to State Street. As well. And to me, this sets precedent for those developments, not only what could go on it, but the value of them. I think that's going to increase the value of those properties as well. So, and as we've all said, I think this is the first peg in spurring the catalyst up St. Pete Drive and down State Street and things like that. So I look at the overall value of the project. Could we have got an extra $50,000? I don't know. It may sit 2 years and then get nothing, and the market, you know, crashes. So
that's why I think we should take all the land we own and go ahead and tag it and discuss what we want. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want the rest of that property to go to high rises or townhouses. Then that doesn't do a thing for your restaurants, because you won't have a restaurant down there.
Well, I mean, there's other opportunities. If the gallery had ever been developed the way it was intended to be developed, we'd be talking a whole different ballgame down there.
I know that, but if you went down there with townhouses for the whole other for the rest of the land, and you keep talking about restaurants, you won't have any restaurants down there. And I think it's up to us to tag all of our land and at least make some kind of a determination what we want on the rest of the land, so we won't have townhouses all the way down there, and no
Well,
restaurants.
And I think there is a compromise, and that's a lot of the development that's going on. They just finished a very successful one in downtown Dunedin that is similar to the Galleria with, commercial on the bottom, ice cream shops, little restaurants, boutiques,
That's
and then
fine.
residential on top.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Like the Galleria.
Hughes had intended for across the street, which very may well happen now a lot sooner than he had planned because of this development.
because of this.
I can tell you, he's very interested now.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
across the street is being developed.
And I think that we're going to find that as the project starts to move and so forth, and also what's happening over in the old West Oldsmar, now new Oldsmar.
West Oldsmar.
Yeah, by the 580 bridge.
That, there's more citizens that can support and sustain, is probably a good way to say it. I mean, you drive up and down, I say it all the time, Friday, Saturday night, all of our places are booked, they're busy, they're, so on and so forth. You keep building, okay, what happens, right? And so I think it makes sense. I'm still striking that balance, that's why I like there being barriers between new and old, and I understand connectability and walkability and that kind of stuff. I just think it's just, piece by piece.
Walkability, I'm
Jerry,
sorry.
something to your point, though. See, I think your suggestion for us to take all of the property we own and start to put some kind of long-term plan of what we want to see where, I don't know that I agree with that, and I'll tell you why. I like the idea of us banking land.
I'm sorry.
Banking land. When we have an opportunity.
Hey, look, that's been
So
the
why-
whole thing.
Okay, so sometimes there's been land that councils that you led or other councils before any of us were on had the vision that this property's available, let's buy it. This property's available, and it wasn't until years later that we really know what we ultimately needed it for. I do agree that we should come up with a policy or procedure on when we're contacted, and so it's out there, so it's known to anybody
That's
who
what I'm
has
talking
a vision
about.
for another piece of property for us, which it might be the perfect vision, right? But that it's known that when you come to us, part of our process is that we are going to have a period of time that we put it out there specifically to encourage other people to come compete.
That's what I'm talking about.
And so that, I think, would serve us well, and ultimately would be setting the ground rules so we're not moving them around and like, okay, who do you even negotiate with over there anymore, right? We want to avoid that. But
it was our program to buy everything on State Street.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
That was our program.
I will add one last comment. If you guys remember back to the project we did with the school,
I
and
just-
all the time
I love
we
it.
spent with the students to build out a plan which included St. Pete Drive, Park Boulevard, and if you remember, the piece of property right
Read my
next to the
notes.
library was townhouses. If you
Oh,
look at their plan that they put together for us, now it wasn't, we all agreed this is gonna be the plan of the future. That was what those students that we supported their project had envisioned. It was a little bit more modern in look to but I actually prefer this plan. But I mean, it was exactly what we put together with those students, was townhomes, residence density right next to the library, and that's what we're delivering.
I just got one more comment. You must have read my mind. We talked about, and I want to move this along because we've kind of gotten away from the development agreement and we're talking about philosophies and things like that. But to that point, we mentioned Safety Harbor. I was down there. You say the same thing about Dunedin. And this came up at our USF meeting was they have one street, and the concept that the USF had was to interconnect a lot of our stuff together and move people around our city. And I was in Safety Harbor. I parked my car. I walked to Main Street. I walked up and down 2 times. I got back in my car and I left. So the same thing happens in Dunedin.
Well, I'll say this on the USF plan. I think one of the things that to me I found really exciting was the way they put the streets through the property that we have over here really made it more of a walkable versus a one-turn thing. But that's
anyway,
another story.
we digress. So anyway,
We digress.
if there's no other discussion, no more questions from staff,
Do we want to have Marie address Dave's mention about the landscape buffer?
I don't know, yeah. If you want to address the buffer
Wanted
about the 15 feet,
clarification on how big's the buffer now with the landscaping.
does the buffer
and fence.
change?
Well, we're going to come back to you with the site plan.
Okay.
So at that time, we'll work with the developer. But the rendering or the picture in the development agreement shows landscaping
Outside.
on the outside, yeah. But we haven't really talked to him.
Okay, all right.
We'll
We're
address
gonna
that.
make sure they maintain it. No, I want an answer. I brought that up at the last meeting. We make them spend a lot of money on their landscaping down Tampa Road.
Yeah.
We make them spend a lot of money on it, and then we go hide our head in the, drive down Tampa Road and see how all that landscape we made them put in, how ugly it looks.
Some of the properties along Tampa Road have been starting to come into compliance. There was issues with construction or a drought situation, et cetera. So when code enforcement went to visit the sites, some of them up last week, I think.
Okay, that's after I brought it up, okay, because if we're gonna make them put in great landscaping, which we do, which I agree to, doesn't matter what I agree to anymore, but anyway, make them maintain it.
Well, and to that point, and I assume I'm correct, is that, developer's going to be responsible up to a certain point, and then it'll be turned over to the HOA, and it's up to the HOA to take care of it, so.
We don't have an HOA.
Well, this
We'll have an
property
HOA.
will.
You live in an HOA.
No, I said, but that would be an HOA. And then
It'll
it'll,
be on the outside of it.
well, it's still on their
They'll
property.
consider the common area, so
Still
they
their
have to
property.
maintain the fence.
It doesn't work that way
Wow.
now.
Well, our HOA, Jerry, on Tampa Road, we are responsible for taking care of that, the
They all don't do
bushes and the
that, though.
trees. We take
I
care of that.
understand that. I understand
And
that.
ours too, the road up to Bay Arbor, up to our gate is city property, and we maintain the landscaping along it and on it, so,
City property or DOT right away.
city.
On Tampa Road?
No, our entrance from Tampa Road to our gate.
Okay, the entrance.
Anyway, okay,
That's a,
thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
No more discussion? We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sidell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember McGee?
Yes.
Councilmember Bieber?
no. I feel better now.
There goes another gold star.
Aye.
Four Towns LLC.
Nothing against y'all, but I still feel better.
For 50 single-family attached townhome subdivision on properties located south of St. Petersburg Drive, east of Oldsmar Library, and north of Arlington Avenue, passes with 4 votes for and 1 for against, Beaverland dissenting.
Thank you. Anything else?
I don't have anything else,
Thank you. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 19, as we know, has been postponed. Item 20, approved purchase of vacant land from Collier Leonard Kuntz located on the northeast side of the intersection of Hayes Road and Douglas Road West. There's an attached map in your agenda item. The parcel identification is 232816-63936-210-0040. The city has entered into a contract conditional upon council approval with the owner for a sale price of $75,000. A few side notes. This is an ongoing negotiation that's taken probably at least 2 years between Mr. Kuntz and, in this particular case, myself. 2 years ago, I had an appraisal done on the property. It came in at $80,000, so I feel like the price is good and worth council approval. So with that in mind, staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Need a motion for discussion? Second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
Yes,
item?
we have discussion on this.
All right.
We've been dealing with Mr. and Mrs. Coots and the family for the last 40 years to get this property. But what I want to bring out, and I bring it out because I want to bring it out, because it shows you what I think about the city of Oldsmar. You see that piece of yellow property on Douglas Road? Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good sized property, isn't it? Mm-hmm. My beautiful wife and I and Babe Wright, we gave the city that property for nothing in return. We donated it to the city, we gave it to the city, my beautiful wife and me and Babe Wright. And thanks to Al, he's the first city official ever to thank us Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that. What year was that, Jerry?
Around 1983, 84.
Well,
Do you have any more land?
I was going to say, we thank you for that. You got any more?
Seriously.
You know anything about the library?
Actually,
Oh, wow.
wait a minute.
Too far. Too far.
I will say this. 90% of the reason why we own the library land is because I went down there when they hated the city. And I talked them into donating it to the city. That whole library property. Now, anybody want to question me on that?
No, we're good.
Time to research.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
Back away in tomorrow.
PolitiFact, yeah.
But anyway, that's how much we think of the city of Oldsmar and the growth of it.
And that was the, if I'm not mistaken, that was the property that one time it was discussed for the YMCA, is that correct?
No.
No, it was across the street.
Or is it the one to the north of that?
Behind the post office.
Oh, it's the one to the north of it.
Yeah, all that up in there, yes.
I wasn't
You know where the very original property for the YMCA was discussed?
What's that?
Where?
Do you know where that is?
But the original property,
Where that was discussed for the Y?
down on Lafayette.
Yep.
Yeah.
The old
Skate park.
rec building.
Skate
That
park
was
and
there.
all that, yeah.
The rec building, by the way,
Yep.
is the land that I give it to them when I was head of the Northeast Sewer Water Authority.
Yeah.
And,
Get 'em.
and the rec building was built by volunteers, labor and material,
There's no other discussion?
because we love the city of Oldsmar.
If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hello, down there?
I said aye.
Oh, I didn't hear
Oh,
anything.
yeah. I just was looking down.
Good work, Al.
Yeah.
Thank you, 5-0.
And by the way, yes, Mayor, there is other land I could tell you that we donated to the city, but I'm not going to right now. With nothing in return.
No, I meant, do you have any more you could give us now?
No, enough.
Okay.
Not me, my beautiful wife, and thanks to Babe Wright, which I will talk about her in a minute. Thanks to Babe, we got a lot of land.
Good. And we thank you for that. Okay?
She did a lot more than I did.
Yep, I think we're ready.
Item 21. This is a request for approval for an amendment to an existing interlocal agreement between Pinellas County and most of the municipalities in the county regarding the cost-sharing arrangement needed to satisfy the requirements of the NPDES MS4 permit, which apply to water quality and biological monitoring. I've asked John Ojan, our Assistant Public Works Director, to be available to answer any technical questions, which are so far, at least to this point, a little beyond my abilities. But this is essentially just an amendment to an existing interlocal agreement that all but 3 of the municipalities in the county have signed, and it's,
Housekeeping.
right, formality.
Need a motion?
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And discussion. So Al, can you explain what the NPDES permit is?
Yes, sir, that's the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
Oh, thank you very much. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Oh, who didn't vote for it?
5-0.
No, I mean the other cities. Of course, St. Petersburg is not in it.
They're doing such a grand job with their, well, never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item 22, approve the request to waive bid requirements and authorize the purchase of a 2018 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 two-wheel drive crew cab pickup truck from Allen J. Fleet Sales utilizing the National Joint Powers Alliance, or as we refer to them, NJPA, contract number 120716-NAF, which stands for the National Auto Fleet, piggyback number 17-002D. The contract is valid through January 16th, 2021. Mayor, I remove this from the consent agenda because it's for the purchase of a vehicle that was in the budget for the city manager, and I felt I needed to at least specifically address that without leaving it among the others. Obviously, I'm going to say that the manager recommends approval, but it's under budget. It is flex fuel capable, and it can be plugged into the fleet at any time if needed.
I'll make a motion to that. How about
I'll
that?
second it.
Can I call for a motion?
When you do, I'll make the motion.
Okay, I have a motion.
You got it.
Thanks, a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion, my bad, sorry.
Discussion, I was curious about this. I was looking at it and I thought, you know, this is probably a good new direction, right? Because you think about it right now. You know, we just had all these storms and all this debris pickup. And our city manager could put this right into service because they have a pickup. So I don't know if we want to just think about that or make it an actual condition. Maybe we should just leave it there as an option.
What can happen?
Oh, my God.
Listen to this. We had a major hurricane here and it got East Shore Drive. I mean, it got the houses on East Shore Drive. So Bud Lister came to me and said, I want to use 2 of your big roofing trucks. I said, sure, go ahead. So what does he do? He takes 2 of my big roofing trucks and goes down, ruins 14 wheels going through the salt water, helping all the people down there. And then when it was all finished, that was great. He just brought them back to me and says, you better wash your wheels.
So you donated wheels too.
So maybe your truck may check your wheels, okay?
Check the wheels.
I asked Al for a picture of it.
All right, that's the
I will
only.
provide.
That's the only-
And I will accept
Yeah.
any conditions. that
Well,
you'd like to
we'll just
place.
leave it out there and see what the weather's.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like herding cats tonight. Anything else?
Sir?
Hello, City Clerk, you got anything? Before we get to comments by council, I just will announce that Rick Kreisman is the mayor of St. Petersburg, and Penny for Pinellas, 82% in favor, 17% against. That's big. That is big. 51-49.
Wow.
Like 1,000 votes.
33,854 to 2,000 votes he won.
Yeah,
So they knew it was going to be tight.
yeah.
Margin of error, basically, and that's what they said. So comments by council, we'll start down at this end, if that's all right. Councilmember Saito?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Just a reminder about the benefit yard sale coming up this weekend. It's not this weekend, next week.
This weekend,
This weekend, wow.
Friday, Saturday.
Yep. And the address is 1103 Thornwood Drive. So make sure that you're out there for the thousands of people watching at home.
That's it? Good.
No.
Oh,
I want to make a point of thanking the city team that came out and worked at Oktoberfest. And really appreciate it. Everyone who was out there, raise your hand, so I don't have to call the names. And some other folks, I know Gina Rogers was out there, and we had a lot of other folks, so we appreciate it. Chamber appreciates it, and as someone who was chairing the team, I really appreciate it. Goal for a Cause, the mayor spoke about that at the beginning, November 18th, 12 to 4. They have the celebrities. It's over at Jack Willie's. It's a great event. The mayor and I have been celebrities in it for a couple of years, but obviously they have upgraded the celebrities and now have professional athletes, former professional athletes, so we'll probably be taking tickets or something, but we'll be there. And so please make a point of coming out and supporting it. And I just wanted to say on a personal note, I was very grateful to the citizens in Oldsmar who signed the petition cards. And I was very happy to already go through that process and qualify. So I look forward to being on the ballot. And the team that was out there, I got a lot of good feedback from how nice everybody was when they went and knocked on their door, or when I was door knocking. I even got like 15 cards signed for Gabby. So just help out my buddy over there. So that's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is Saturday night, I spent some time with Joe, the mayor of Safety Harbor. We were walking up and down the street. That was just an amazing event, that wine festival they have going on over there. I would love to see that someday in our city. It was pretty intense, all the food vendors they had. It was just a great event that they put on over there. And the other thing I have is the Holly Jolly Trolley Tour. When we did the Centennial, we got a lot of positive feedback at the Historical Society about having the trolley car here in the city of Oldsmar. So what we decided to do this year is we're going to have the Jolly Trolley Tour. We're going to have one trolley from Clearwater come over here, and the date is Saturday, December 9th. There's going to be 2 tours, 1 o'clock to 2:15 p.m. You're going to get picked up in front of City Hall. We're taking a tour through the historical section of the downtown Oldsmar area, and then we're going to go to Sports Complex, the Zip Line, Ariel's Park. We're going to actually do a tour of the different parks in the city, and it's going to be educational. And our speaker is going to be Ken Sonorovich, who is the Gull Air historian for that area, and he's going to be doing both tours. The other tour is going to be at 2:30 to 3:45. It's $20 per person, and you're going to be dropped off at the Women's Club. The Women's Club is going to have food, cookies, holiday cheer, and you can spend time there and then enjoy your day.
And in reality, basically, you're being picked up and dropped off at the same general location.
Yeah, it's basically, we're going to pick up though in City Hall, at the front of City Hall, and then go on the tour, and then you will be dropped off at the Women's Club, and you should park probably in this parking lot.
Right, so.
Yeah, because you can just go and, because there's going to be a conflict when they're loading and.
Right.
But that's why we did that. And tickets are available through Jerry Antozzi. Her phone number is 813-855-1191. They're only $20 per person. All the proceeds will go to the Historical Society, and the Historical Society is not trying to make money on this. We're just trying to break even and try something different than a walking tour this year, and that's
very cool.
All I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember McGee.
Couple things. Thank you, Eric, for the petition cards that you helped me get, and to all the residents that helped me sign. I will say, I still think there's a better way in the future, hopefully, with the way technology's changing. And I personally hate bothering people at their home on, say, like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I actually end up sitting on someone's couch watching football with them for a few minutes. But a lot of times you go door to door, people think you're soliciting, or personally, for me, it's easy. I say I'm your city council member. They're a little bit more forgiving. But someone like my father who's volunteering, there was one resident that was like, I'm going to call the police for soliciting.
And I'm sure when they see you walking up, they don't want to talk to you. Well, I don't have that problem. Thanks, Gabby.
But I will say, yeah, I do hope that in the future, there are some other capabilities and ways that we obtain that. Other thing I wanted to say was, I think it's kind of funny. So we did a proclamation today on the importance of trees, yet we were required to print it out
on paper,
which has a negative effect on trees. And I think it's an important issue. I think we've delivered some really great proclamations in the city, one in particular for the woman Dottie who recently passed away, proclaiming it her day for her birthday when we celebrated here. That was a really special moment for me on council. However, I personally feel that proclamations are a waste of time. I think they're a waste of effort and money in most cases. I think they're losing their specialness because we do them almost every meeting. Every day is proclaimed something, and then I think it almost loses its importance or significance for when we actually do them. So I would just mention this, and I mentioned it to Al, is if we could have some sort of consensus on limiting them to very special circumstances, potentially things where they might be required, say, to be a tree city, you have to have a proclaimed kind of Arbor Day, or special circumstances like Dottie's birthday here, but to do them for every single request that may get emailed to Ann. I'd just be curious the amount of time we spend in creating them, printing them, reading them, and the significance that's actually.
And if I could, to that point, a lot of times they ask me what I think, and there have been proclamations that we haven't done. Mm-hmm. There have been proclamations that we've done that we don't present here. We just print them, I sign them, and we deliver them to them. You know, they add them to their portfolio. A group came in the other day and asked for one. So I agree. Sometimes they can become excessive, but I think they're also the norm in a lot of cities. Library Week and Fire Prevention Week, and
I'm not saying there's not some that are important, but I wonder if we can have a better kind of guard of what ones we actually create and the time put into them to deliver them, because I do feel like they lose their significance. Sometimes I feel like we're reading them, like at an auction so fast.
I tried to slow down because you yelled at me.
I think the proclamation for the people that go out there and designate your land was very important.
Survey?
Survey.
You're being facetious.
Proclamations suck.
This is almost as good as the medical marijuana workshop comments. No, I knew that you would agree with me, but sometimes, like I said, the one for Dottie, for me, was very special. And I think in cases like that, they're important and they're personal and they have significance. I feel like most of them that we do are a waste of time.
Nobody reads them, nobody cares.
So that's
Well,
my,
I'd say this, that I think maybe it's one of those things that gets left to the discretion of the mayor, whether it's an agenda item or not. I don't know that there's a lot of harm in providing a proclamation of somebody who's passionate about something that they're involved in, whether it's all should be on the city council agenda. Maybe that's.
And that's what I say, I sign some and we just we give them to them.
I mean, I did ask Al, though, what's the time staff is putting into creating them or printing them, or I don't know that answer, and maybe he doesn't know that because we just had the conversation before this meeting. But I would be curious, is it worth the time, or, that the staff...
Kathy probably knows, but most of the time, we're provided with a template, and we just change some of the important information.
When I was mayor, we didn't have proclamations.
You didn't even have paved streets when you were the mair.
Okay,
Yeah, we
I
did,
digress,
too.
but that's my feeling about proclamations.
Okay.
Kill Gabby week.
The property that was supposed to be the restaurant on Bayview and 580, and now it's being dug up and looks like being developed.
No, they're just clearing it. I think partial.
He just cleared it because he wanted to.
Okay,
No,
nothing's
I think there's a
getting-
little more to it than that, and I might be speaking out of school, but I think he's doing it to keep his
Okay.
permit alive.
Okay, because I was like, was something getting built there? I didn't realize that.
You have to keep your permit active by showing activity.
That's why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, lastly, I just said, just because I'll give you a little history lesson, something you may not know about me. I like the poetry challenge. I actually originally went to college on a writing scholarship and had submitted some poetry and things in order to obtain that scholarship, and then decided I didn't think I could be a writer for my career and changed to finance. But so I look forward to that, and thanks, Gator, for kind of presenting that to us, and that's all I have. Thank you.
I won a scholarship to Northwest University School of Journalism when I was 17 years old, which meant absolutely nothing.
Councilmember Evelyn, you got anything left? Or we heard it all tonight?
No, I've got a couple of things. Babe Wright's wreck was a lot more serious than what we had anticipated. She come this close to having her neck broken.
Oh, wow.
Her shoulder up into that was crushed. Her pelvis was crushed. Her ribs were crushed. And she was in bad shape. She wanted to come home this last weekend. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to her because I've had my own problems. If she made it home from rehab, she was in bad shape.
Wow. They didn't make it sound like that at first.
They crushed this shoulder up to her neck.
Wow.
A little more and she had had a broken neck. Anyway, other than that, and I've always thanked Eric for bringing up what he brought up. I disagree with you on this part. I think this keeps a lot of people from running to council, have to go out there and get their signatures. I've been doing this for 28 years. You need to go out there. In fact, I think we should change it to 500 signatures.
Nope, we don't have a second. Sorry, that fails.
I think we should do that just for seat 4.
That fails.
It is a problem going out, because I have a hard time asking anybody for anything.
Yeah.
And I can do anything for you, but I can't do it for me. And my beautiful son I just lost, he would go out and give me 50 signatures because he loved to talk to people. And,
So does my dad.
and I can't knock on a door and ask. I can't do it. I'm backward that way, but I think it gives you an incentive to run for council.
It can.
Signing those
I remember
cards.
when Dan first ran the first time, and he said, "I'm gonna whip Gullier out in a day." I said,
Yeah, right.
"Yeah, good luck with that.
Took a
You
long
can be in
time.
one house for
I know
45
what you're
minutes."
talking about. It took a
Especially when
long
you're the
time.
candidate,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if anybody wants to contemplate this, but I think I think we should. You know, Wells Fargo's leaving town. And I think we should, I know it's gonna cost a lot of money, but I think we should bank with an Oldsmar bank. I'm changing mine. Anyway, that's just how I feel. So,
Saying about purchasing that property?
me?
No, I mean, is that what you're suggesting?
No, he's saying,
No.
he's a bank in Oldsmar. He's gonna deal with a bank in Oldsmar.
We need to deal with the bank in Oldsmar.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And Wells Fargo is not gonna be that bank. You all know how I feel, and I'm not gonna apologize for reading this. Y'all just have to get upset with me. Y'all know how important that sewer plant is to me. Because I put a lot of effort and blood in that, and a lot of the people in town didn't like me. You can go ahead and do whatever you want, Mayor, but I'm gonna read this anyway.
No, I'm fine. I'm hunkered
Okay.
down. I'm ready to listen.
The city council in 1978, I was elected to this thing in 1974 as president of the Sewer and Water Authority. I was probably the most hated person in town by the city council at the time, because I made them toe the line on the sewer plant. And so in 1978, they threatened to fire me. Now, who I had put on the board was all my enemies. And my vice president, I wanted particularly was Coy Lee, because they were so much against. So I acted like Abraham Lincoln and put my enemies on my board. They threatened to fire us. So I wrote a letter and had my board sign it on purpose. You want to fire me? You want to fire the Northeast Pinellas County Water and Sewer Authority? I'm going to teach y'all a lesson. I just found this in some of my junk at house. I'm going to give it to, this is dated September 12, 1978. City of Oldsmar, City Hall, Oldsmar, Florida. Attention, Mayor and City Council. Attention, Metropolitan Bank and Trust and our bonding agents. As members of the Northeast Pinellas County Sewer and Water Authority, we hereby give notice to our resignation effective immediately. You aren't going to fire us. The authority, the bonding agents, and the trustees have warned City Hall repeatedly of the upcoming chaos if the city fathers did not take an affirmative action and decisive action to protect this city's sewer plant. I kept telling them to raise the sewer rates, blame me. You know, the city council doesn't want to take blame for raising the sewer rates. I said, then tell them to blame me for it. The council as a whole, not individually, have played a fumbling ball game. Monies that should have been spent to the trustees have been wasted on equipment and department personnel. A case in point, the planning department, not against y'all, but back there, because you weren't here then. The slope mower and et cetera, et cetera. Oldsmar's operating budget should have been cut to the bone over a year ago, but it wasn't. Because of this inaction on the part of the council and its seemingly inability to cope with the situation in positive actions, this letter is submitted to the council by all members of the authority, and we all signed it. It was copied to the Metropolitan Bank and Trust and the bonding agents. And I told them at that meeting, you ain't firing us. We'll resign first. And then you pay the price to the bonding company.
Did you really resign?
No.
I didn't think so.
And they decided not to fire us.
Oh, yeah, funny how that worked out.
I mean, that would have made a lot of people happy if they had it, but they didn't. And you know what? And they raised the sewer rates.
Good.
And then a year later, I did. Well, you can have it. And a year later, I dissolved the authority in 1979. Then I faded to the sunset.
Not yet.
Anything else?
And that's it. I just thank y'all.
Thanks for who you are. I only have one comment. The tragedy that happened in Texas, and this is something that I've been kind of kicking around for a while, and it kind of provoked it. We had talked about a active shooter thing for city council and to go over that and do it for us here, but I've taken it another step. I just talked to Amy Reddick today at Nielsen, and they're going to host an active shooter workshop or meeting or whatever, presentation for the city of not the city of Oldsmar, but the businesses in Oldsmar. There are a lot of soft targets in Oldsmar. Deputy Kakalo and Skipper are working with us on that to put it together. We're going to coordinate it, invite everybody that's really a soft target, Oldsmar Christian, the church next to the post office, daycares, anything that, where you have this, even restaurants, a Rumba, a Salt Rock, a Swagra, that, where you have large groups of people. I think we can accommodate probably over 100 people in our auditorium. So we can't necessarily stop it, but we can sure make people aware of what they need to do. It's not going to go away. I know Deputy Kakalo has brought her team into this building and looked at what we could do to make sure that we're doing the best that we can. And one of the things that was mentioned was, there's two entrances to this, and there's a door over there. And they, suggested to keep that closed so that, it eliminates an entrance in there. And I think it's just little things like that that really can make a big difference in something like that. So she was freaking me out by telling me I should get my concealed weapons permit, but at any rate. So I don't have any more details on it, but today Amy agreed that they would love to do that. And I don't know the details, but they were having an issue up in their Chicago office. They're moving it from the suburbs down into the city. Nielsen is, and so they were having an issue. She didn't have any of the details. I don't know that it was an active shooter, but there was some kind of a disturbance going on in Chicago. So it's unfortunate that we have to do this, but it's the world we live in today, unfortunately. And so hopefully it never has to come to fruition that we have to enact anything, but we're doing a couple other things, hopefully, that'll help us here as a council. But I'm excited about that we can, offer that and help the citizens and the businesses, and because, it could be anything. That church was just a prime example of,
Preventive actions, premeditated actions can solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think if I
agree with you.
Yeah, and we've talked about, what our plan would be here and things like that. I don't want to get into discussing it publicly, but, I think they're going to share what we should do. So we do know what should happen. Should something happen, it could happen. So
I'll tell you, Tech Data, my account now keeps full-time Largo police at each entrance, police officers that monitor, and being the largest public company, now that they acquired their competitor, it's probably smart with it being headquartered.
Yeah, it's it's an unfortunate thing, but, the one thing that is to our advantage that some cities don't do, and Dunedin's one of them, we don't do, is our meetings are not live. I think that them not being live is a big advantage. I was at the city, I was there when Rob DeSpirito got let go, and there were several people that were watching it at home live and came flying into the council chambers, pissed off as all get out, and,
That's true.
you have no, way to protect yourself against that. So at any rate, but that's really all I have, so thank you. Kathy's garage sale this weekend, or yard sale. I went last year, she had stuff all over the place.
So Kathy, do you want us to donate things for the yard sale still, or are you just hoping to get people there? No.
Just people, yeah.
Coming by.
Well, I got some old
Money.
tools, power tools that I'm gonna bring over. Yeah.
I'm out
You
of
don't want
time.
any more?
I'm out of time.
Okay.
Yeah, you get it all together.
Thanks.
Remind me, and I'll make sure, well, I don't know what time I'm on the air. You're doing it Saturday and Sunday?
No, Friday, Saturday.
Saturday. Yeah, I won't be on the radio until later Saturday, so it won't really be effective. But I'll see if I can get somebody to.
And I was going to give you a Renoir painting.
Well, I will make him.
Well, you can go ahead.
You can sell it and still donate the money.
Yeah, you can sell it. It's worth what somebody will pay for it. So you can give it to her, and maybe she can just hang it in her house. Heck with selling it. So, too soon.
That's happened before.
Nothing else? Anybody got anything for the good of the cause? Nope. Good, thanks.
In the books.